Hi. I don't know how to start a podcast.
Just because I've been asked to do 3 podcasts before doesn't mean I've actually done a
any of them?
podcast or know how to do a podcast.
That is totally fair. Hi guys. So welcome. We are insert name here. We don't know what we're doing. We just decided to hit the record button and decide where to go from there. I just kicked the table.
It's the ADHD.
It is. It really is. So what our premise is for this podcast is that our plan is to go through the top 100 poorly rated. Sorry, so technically the bottom 100 movies on IMDb and review them.
You know what I've just realized?
What?
What the f*** is your name?
Oh, hi. I'm Jim. Sorry, this is going to go on my channel, so returners to the channel would know me, but it's been like a year and a bit. So
I'm Grace.
Yeah, hi Grace.
Hi. I've never met you before in my life.
No, who the f***?
I have no clue. Anyway, why are we here?
So we are here to watch the worst 100 rated films on IMDb. We are bit of film buffs. I have a music background, but have done acting in the past. You have a fantastic film degree that you're not using. So what better way to use it than to pull these movies apart and kind of go from there? The first one that we kind of want to jump into, though, I'm not sure when this is going to go up. I will ruin the magic a little bit and say that it is currently December 20th. And I have noticed that in this bottom 100 list, there are a number of Christmas movies.
Oh, no.
There's a decent number of Christmas movies, so we're going to start with this one.
We pick the movies by randomly selecting a number, so I'll be impressed if the next one is also a Christmas movie. We just happened to pick number 3 this time, because it's my lucky number, and I always choose 3 whenever someone's like, pick a number.
Pick a number, which we'll probably start just rolling D100s. We should totally do that.
In the spirit of D&D.
Yeah, we do love some D&D. So this movie is titled Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas. Apparently this is pretty bad. The reviews on here, we'll go into those in a moment, but I'll just read a little bit of the synopsis for this. Well, I'll read the summary. I won't read the synopsis because this synopsis looks pretty spoilery.
I can tell you it's about saving Christmas.
Well, I mean, shock horror. His annual Christmas party faltering thanks to his cynical brother-in-law, former Growing Pains star Kirk Cameron attempts to save the day by showing him that Jesus Christ remains a crucial component over the over-commercialized holiday. I have to admit, so I do have a religious background, but I really love religious movies because I've never seen a good one.
I know. They're gold.
Yeah, like The Passion of Christ was done well, but what I mean is there's a lot of people that will make a movie under the heading of Christian film, and I just had to use inverted commas for that because some of them are really bad. Like, I'm really excited to show you The Unexpected Bar Mitzvah.
Oh God, I was nearly kicked out of religious education for questioning everything.
I'm not shocked, but I love that.
No, never tell my grandparents, please.
Oh God, hopefully they don't listen to this. Should I read the rest of this summary?
How spoilery is it?
Kirk is enjoying the annual Christmas party extravaganza thrown by his sister until he realizes he needs to help out Christian, his brother-in-law. Okay, so that's going to get confusing.
A Christian movie with someone called Christian
named
in it.
Christian, who has a bad case of the bar humbugs. Kirk's fresh look at Christmas provides Christian the chance that... This is hard to read. Kirk's fresh look at Christmas provides Christian the chance to see Christ is where he has always been, at the center of our Christmas celebrations and traditions. Can Kirk save his in-laws' opinions on Christmas, or will he have to celebrate the holiday?
Oh, gosh.
Without him?
I will admit, okay, I have actually seen one really well-made, great Christian, film thing before. Yeah. It was, the Christian version of The Office in a church, and it was really good. It was really funny.
I'll have to check that out. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to go into the film now. We're going to go and have a watch, and we'll come back and we're going to go through it with you.
I'm excited.
I'm a little scared.
I'm so excited.
All right, let's go. Okay, so I do apologize. I forgot that I didn't read any of the reviews, but on IMDb, it did say that it was a 1.3 star review. Now, the review that is here, the featured review, it's way too long. I'm not going to bother reading it. What I am going to tell you, though, is that the last line of this review is, "Please, Kirk, get help."
Just like we need to get help trying to find where we can find this movie.
I know. It's gonna be a time. All right, let's do this. What the fuck was that?
Help. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Where to start? Maybe the fact that everything tech-wise told us not to watch this.
Yeah. So the sound quality may change a little bit between the first part and now. I've had to completely reorganize the recording method because just as soon as the movie started, everything went to hell and then came back to this point. It took us 3 hours to watch a 1 hour movie.
Yep, it stopped playing halfway through. It didn't show up in our history either. It's like it never existed. That was fun. Then technology broke and we had to drive down to the store.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd like to begin this review with saying that I still have not seen a good Christian film.
The only good one I saw wasn't even technically a film. It was a mini-series done for fun.
Yes. Throughout the thing that annoys me most of all about, religion as a whole, like I consider myself a religious person. I hate it, though, when any religion tries to destroy any another religion. And I think in this particular movie, they tried to just erase everything that was not Christian.
I'm not even religious and I'm mad.
Yeah. I have so many notes that are just like one sentence, like very quick sentence notes.
Pretty sure I wrote help and what is the plot of this film a few times.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's discuss first who the audience of this film is meant to be.
Oh, God. Yeah, clearly their purpose for it is for other Christians, but they treat them like idiots.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing that annoys me about that, right? Is that they are babifying, like they're so what they're doing is essentially dumbing down the Bible for people that already know the Bible
and getting it wrong.
That's right, and getting it wrong. There's a few things that straight off the bat you look at and you go, hang on, no, that's not right. But we won't get into the full nitty gritty of those because I don't know, maybe there's some stuff that we're missing. But
I'm pretty sure there's some obvious ones.
I think there's some obvious ones, and a lot of people that go through this will notice the same. So the thing for me, right? So if we go through, let's go with the start. What the hell was that opening?
I don't know. It was like someone tried to do a bad copy of Vikings.
Yeah, so basically what had happened was, and straight away I knew that this was going to be narrated through the entirety of this film, was that it opens up with Kirk Cameron just giving a 3-minute...
I had purged that already. I literally skipped to the opening of like the actual scene because I'd already purged that from my memory.
Yeah, okay. So there was a 3-minute scene at the start of Kirk Cameron just talking shit to the camera.
Like a YouTube video.
Yeah, like a YouTube video. And the thing that I put into words here, so we play Dungeons and Dragons a lot, right? And I DM games, so I know what sort of preparation goes into that sort of thing.
I've seen the OneNote.
Yeah, you've seen the OneNote. It's huge. The conversation that he tries to have with the audience, which is a very one-sided conversation, it gave me the vibes of a D&D big bad evil guy trying to give this big meaningful speech, but it's not prepared. Like, it's just improvised the entire way. Like, there's so many awkward pauses where it looks like he's trying to work out exactly what he wants to say next, and it's dumb.
You can't improvise. Like, you can improvise in films, but you can't improvise your entire intro where you're going to be talking about what the meaning of this film. That was the other thing that I'm very, like, I hate so much is it felt like he was justifying the reason for this film existing for 3 minutes straight.
Yeah, it's like, hey, look, we know that this sucks, but please hear me out.
My second note in this book, immediately after the first note, which is, by the way, the fact that Jimmy got up after 2 seconds of this film playing to find notebooks because we needed to take notes because it's going to be that bad. Is
straight off the bat.
Help.
Yeah. So so that was a legitimate thing. It was about a minute into that ridiculous speech. Yeah, maybe even less.
It was less.
And then I was like, no, I need to pause this. And I walked out and came back with 2 notepads because I'm like, this is a ride. I would like to point out, too, I don't drink very often. I don't drink alcohol very often. I had to drink to get through this film.
There is Guinness in this room.
There is Guinness, and I can still smell it, actually. But it's probably just me at this point. So the thing that got me was because of all of the technical issues and the pauses that we decided to take, because there were a couple. Like, there was one where Grace decided, I'm not sitting on this chair, I'm going to go and swap the chair out.
Exactly.
And she was like, but no, it's okay, you can keep it playing. I'm like, no, pause it, please. Like, I couldn't do it.
We were 5 minutes into the film.
Yeah, we were 5 minutes in. It hurts me so much. From a music point of view, okay, you would think, all right, there's going to be a lot of, Christmassy sort of music, and that was all well and good.
Half of my notes are about the music.
Yeah, I only have one note about the music, because I feel like it encompasses the whole thing, where none of it made sense.
Do you guys want to hear dubstep in a Christmas film?
Yeah, right? And not to mention, there were weird moments where, like, this really tense music was playing. Like, I was expecting some form of jump scare.
It was just inappropriate all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there were a couple of nicer moments where the music was a bit more playful and a bit more cheery. And that's where, like, you're seeing pictures of the family and that sort of thing. But it still felt like it didn't fit, because it's gone from this really intense, almost a horror movie score into this kind of nice whimsical Christmas thing.
Yeah, it did. It went to like light-heart comedy, Christmas, freeze frames, everything. And then the main thing I noted with the music though is that there's no room for us to breathe. They give no breathing room. It's just constant music change, and maybe 1 or 2 of the songs actually fit.
Yeah, and I noticed too, nothing faded into one another.
No,
it didn't
just
fade. It just cuts.
Yeah,
like it's just an instant cut from one thing to the next. And it's almost like just this roller coaster that you can't, like, A, you can't stop, and B, you can't, like, you're not seeing where the roller coaster is going. You're just at its beck and call to just go around corners all of a sudden.
I think there was one moment of silence.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think when they were getting into the car originally.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
And even then, there were shots that lasted way too long.
I've had to film things in cars before, and it's a living nightmare. Don't do it. I don't recommend it.
I mean, logistically, it makes sense.
It was a stationary car, but it's still difficult.
Yeah,
they did 90% of the film, which is not counting all the flashbacks it involved, is set inside a car.
Yeah.
Where you pretty much get 2, maybe 3 different angles for the entirety of the film. And it's, air quotes, it's where the plot takes place.
Yeah.
There is no plot.
There is no plot. Like...
Oh, no, I'll tell you the plot. Manipulating your friends.
Yeah, being a cult leader is what it was. It was weird. So basically the premise, as was mentioned in the summary from before, is that Kirk Cameron's trying to convince his... in-law?
Something like that. I've already forgotten.
Yeah, me too. Why? How is it...
Chris. We'll just say Chris.
Yeah, Chris, because his name is Christian. As if that's not on the nose.
Christian who hates Christmas.
Although I feel bad if that is genuinely his brother-in-law and that's his name.
We should have watched the credits.
We should have watched the credits, but we couldn't. We had to just turn it off. And here's the thing as well. I love a bad film.
Jimmy has, it's one of his favourite things to do is stream bad movies to us. I've lived through all the Birdemics, Ant Farm, Dickhole, The Room multiple times. I've seen The Room in cinemas with this man.
Oh, it's so good.
They dressed up in suits and everything. This was not fun.
No.
It was bad.
No. And, I love a good bad film where you can just laugh at how terrible it is. This was so incredibly mediocre that you couldn't laugh at it because you could tell that these stories that are coming out, he's taking them seriously.
I know.
He's taking them so seriously. And there's no playfulness, there's no joy. But genuinely, it felt like Kirk Cameron was trying to create a cult and trying to be this cult leader where he's like, hey, I understand your issues for not liking Christmas this year. You know, it is very commercial. You've got all of these issues with, hey, you know, I've spent all of this money on all these presents and food for my family when there are starving children. These are all legitimate issues that people have. And I get it. And I'm like, I like the brother-in-law.
And then immediately follows up, yeah, I agree with you, but you're wrong. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay. No. You're wrong.
Yeah. He's like,
here's why.
Yeah, and then he starts telling these stories that are supposed to be from the Bible. That was another thing too, like, because we could not find this film.
Oh, no, in Australia, it never made it to Australia.
Yeah, it never made it here. We were not able to watch it except for a film, like a YouTube video in which some other guy was reacting to it. The funny thing was, so they were talking about Saint Nick at one point and how he beat the living heck out of a guy. And the commentator was there going, no, that's not very Christian that, you know, people would, you know, beat up other people. And I'm like, have you heard of the Crusades, bro? Like,
Clearly not.
Like, oh my God, especially when they started, like, when Christians started meeting Vikings and stuff, that whole thing was just, no, you're pagan, no, you die now.
That was the other thing. This film just shits on every other, like, religion. Especially Norse paganism.
Yeah.
It just, like, there is no respect there. Like, actual Christians and stuff like that are very open and accepting, and they're not this film.
No, this film is, and this is why I'm very excited for you to some point, because I know in this top 100 list is the surprise bar mitzvah, right? Because the surprise bar mitzvah is a similar thing where they're like, okay, no, Christianity is the only way. And is this kind of conversion, a Jewish family moves in next to a Christian family, and the Christians inadvertently convert the Jewish people into Christianity, and it's a whole thing, right? But in that film, it is the same deal, where they are just of this mindset of, no, if you are not Christian, you are not a good human. And I hate that. This particular film didn't so much shit on things like Judaism, but it did get on the pagan, on pagans
multiple times.
So many times, like I don't know how many times it was brought up.
It's ridiculous. Like my partner's Norse pagan, and my grandparents are all Anglican priests and stuff, and they get along really well, and they're very respectful of each other. And if anything, my grandparents are actually, you know, interested in it. It's not like you're wrong.
Yeah.
It's this is respect and being a basic human. Mm-hmm. We love that. I've been searching for the past 2 minutes for this one note I've written down about how they described the babies. I can't find it, but it was horrendous.
Yeah. So here's a point I also want to bring up, because there's I've got several pages just of small notes that I've taken so that it kind of jogs my memory, right? I've put here, talk about brother-in-law taking bait. So this guy, so Kirk Cameron starts talking to his brother-in-law. He's like, you took the bait to think that Christmas is not this Christian thing. And it's all about, what do you say? It's all about Jesus, and you are tainting it with your mentality. And he says that to the brother-in-law, whereas that should be the brother-in-law's point.
I know. It's like this film, there was no structure for the characters, so it's like the characters kept swapping their views.
Especially because we kept seeing the same actors as well, because there were these flashback, quote-unquote, moments where they're using the same actors.
Moments is an understatement, thank you.
Yeah, that was...
It was the entirety, there is no the plot of this film takes place in 2 seats of a car. Any other quote-unquote plot that takes place is a really bad retelling of the Bible, essentially, with flashbacks. And they're all very strange, and they all have really weird music in them, and like any sort of everything gets explained to you. They're all narrated. Nothing is ever shown in this film to you. You get told it by the narrator. And the problem is with these flashbacks is that they're done like he's still talking to Chris in the car. But then the audio quality also suddenly changes, and it's like he goes into his narrator voice. Yeah, he starts doing his narrator voice again, and it's like he's addressing the audience, but he's not. He's addressing Chris.
Yeah,
and it's very strange. It's very
distorted.
Strange.
It's so. The thing is, I know that this movie had a target audience, but it shouldn't have been that audience. Anybody who knows the Bible is the audience for this film.
They don't need to get told it again.
They don't need to get told it again.
And get told it wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Especially because so many people that know the Bible are going to look at this and go, no? Like, what is this? But the thing that bothers me is, if this was a film to... because I believe when we talked off recording, you mentioned something about, using this as a film for people that are converting.
Yeah, it felt like half the time that they were expecting people to watch this film and then come out Christian by the end of it, convert them.
But then the movie isn't, it's kind of aimed for both things, but it doesn't meet any criteria for either.
It's trying to be too broad.
Yeah.
It's like what we're taught in script writing and stuff too. It was pretty much focus on one thing. Don't try to cover absolutely everything. You'll actually find a better audience by focusing on one thing, usually one audience, because more people come to it. It's going to be better that way. Don't try and cater for everyone or everything, because it's not going to hit home for anyone in particular.
Yeah, that's right. Here's the thing too, because I haven't given a spoiler warning, obviously, as you noticed, because everything in the film is so vague as well. There's no, the flashbacks, they go into detail about certain events in the Bible. They go into Saint Nick, they go into, now I can't remember the rest. There's at least 3 more.
They go into Christmas trees, swaddles. Oh. Yeah, the swaddles. I like to think I can imagine who wrote it, something was in the holy water when they did so.
Something was in the holy water.
It felt like it.
They got into the sacramental wine.
Yeah, it feels tainted.
It does. But then, can we also, on the topic of music...
Oh, God.
Skip to the end a bit, because the end of this film featured a very long and very arduous hip-hop dance scene.
I know. It was crazy. I just want to point out, so the guy comes back inside after being convinced by Mr. Main Character.
After drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, pretty much. Then there's a massive long narration over Christmas presents and cities and all this bullshit. And then immediately after that, he goes to his wife, something about Christmas, and then she makes a sex joke, essentially.
Yeah.
And then there's a freeze frame, more narration, and it's talking about life is unexpected, and sometimes we expect things to go this way and they don't. And then
and that's when he brings up,
and he's like I really want to do a hip-hop dance in the spirit of Christmas, and then you have to suffer through it.
Yeah, so that was the thing too, because I would have been happy for them to go and do their business, right? At that point, yes, all your family's there. Yes, it's a bit weird for you two to go and sneak off. I would have preferred that.
The dude already snuck off.
Oh, yeah, true. But I would have preferred that. And you know what? I would have watched it instead of that hip-hop dancing.
It would have been
if I had
so much
the choice.
better. I think this also leads to the cinematography in general, also particularly in this scene. Half the time it feels like a movie, but kind of a low-end quality movie. And then the other time it's like you're watching the quality of a vlogging family on Christmas.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
like 2 different people did it.
Yeah.
Because some are okay, and then the other half, it's horrendous. We watched it on YouTube, clearly YouTube quality.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even designed for that, but also majority of the time, there's no eye light in the characters. They've just got dead inside eyes.
Yes.
They just look black and dead.
They do. Also, sorry, there's another note that I had here, because at the beginning they're talking about the Bible, and I kind of like what they were saying with some early points where they're like, okay, so, you know, we tell our kids... our parents told us stories. And as we got older, we needed stories with more excitement, more originality. And then when we had kids, we started telling our kids the same stories that, you know, that our parents told us. And then, you know, things would grow from there.
Which is, you know, how it goes. Word of mouth, sort of exciting, blah, blah, blah. It's literally just how it goes.
Yeah, and what they were doing is essentially shitting on the idea of creativity.
Yeah, this was the thing. I can't tell, genuinely, I cannot tell if this film was against itself or not. Half the time they were shitting.
It kind of feels like a black comedy.
Yeah, but you can tell it wasn't intentionally done that way.
Correct.
It's not this is just a bad film, we've tried to do a black comedy on it, we're a bit on the nose. No, they're fully serious.
Yeah, it's not The Room, where The Room is just awful.
I would rather watch The Room.
I would actually rather
I want to go back to cinemas and throw the spoons at the screen again.
Yeah.
I'll go in a suit this time.
Oh, yes.
I've got a suit.
So good. And then your partner can go in the red dress. My partner is a boy, by the way.
I'll get this man into a red dress.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Oh, God.
I think that would be absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, for others.
But, like, quite genuinely, as far as, like, rating this film goes, right? If we think of The Room as, like, the pinnacle, right? We class that as a 10. Because I want to give this, like, a bad rating.
Do we make this the low on the scale? Like, when we compare films in the future, do we make it Saving Christmas to The Room?
That's what I'm thinking.
Because this film it's not entertaining. It's not funny bad. It's
nothing.
It exists.
Like, I feel like I wasted my time.
I feel like the random trailer I did for a year 10 assignment was more exciting than watching that film.
I haven't seen this, but
it was horrific, and we can unearth it one day on another podcast episode.
That sounds good. That sounds good to me. But I genuinely am thinking that this is that other scale.
Yes.
Because if we think about all of the bad movies that we have just seen off camera, right?
Yep.
They're enjoyable in some way.
I know, I've actually enjoyed it. I've gone and gotten like mac and cheese, maybe a Milo, peach iced tea. Like, we sat down, maybe gone till like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yes.
We're all there watching it together.
That was Birdemic 3, oh my god.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
But like, at least we've enjoyed ourselves. This was just pain.
That's right.
And then tech problems.
Yeah.
Like, the world was telling us not to watch this film.
I agree with you. And that's what I think. I think that this gets the 1 out of 10.
Yeah, so...
Do we do it out of 10? Out of 5?
Maybe 10, because...
Do a 10.
Yeah, near 10.
We need that
I
extra.
still have notes to go through as well.
Yeah.
And this is... So, on a scale of Saving Christmas to The Room, this is Saving Christmas.
Yeah, of course.
It's 1, where this is 1 on the scale.
Yeah, this should not have been made.
Giving it a 1 is generous.
I agree.
That review, which said, please get help, I agree with.
Yeah, I agree. Because it genuinely seemed like he was genuinely unhinged talking about this. Because, like, there are ways to talk about Christianity and have that conversation of religion without coming across as some zealot. I've done it. Like, I've had those conversations. But there is that fine line that a lot of people tend to kind of flirt with. But he didn't flirt with it.
This is how cults exist.
Yeah, exactly right. He just went way over it. Like,
and that was the other thing. He's spewing all this bullshit, and then suddenly, near the end of it, he turns around and Chris suddenly is agreeing with him. It was so weird.
Oh yeah, that is another thing too, because there is no reason for the...
Oh, I can't hear you anymore. What did you do?
I might have kicked your thing out. Can you hear it?
Yeah, you're fine. He's putting his feet up on the seat. And it's good job.
But yeah, like, genuinely, there was no reason for the brother-in-law to be like, you know what, you're right.
I know. It was... You know what? It feels like Mr. Main Character. I can't even remember his name. We say it constantly.
Chris?
No.
No, Chris is the brother-in-law.
Kirk. Yeah, Kirk. I just would like to say, yes, he's the main character, but he has main character syndrome.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting from this film. He's got that presence about him where there was this part where he goes up to his sister and he's like, oh, you know, is he giving you trouble, blah, 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 like, I'll go and...
Oh, yeah, he threatens to, like, take the husband out and kill him.
And we're just meant to accept that.
Yeah, it's just he didn't say it as a joke. It like you can say things like that and be like, oh look, if you need him taken care of, I'll go take care of him.
Yeah, it was so weird.
But he was serious. Like there was no inkling that was not serious. That was pretty horrifying. Actually.
Also, those freeze frames. That was right. So the film opens after this weird introduction we get, and then we get basically a flashback to the Viking Age. And then immediately after that, everything suddenly changes, is so disjointed. We start getting freeze frames and narration and being like, hey, this is me. And it freeze frames on his sister for like no reason, who's probably the person you shouldn't be freeze framing on. But it does her so much injustice.
Yeah, it makes her look really weird.
Yeah, I know. If anything, it should be... I think they did do a freeze frame on the brother-in-law, Chris.
Yeah.
But honestly, that early into the film, I was feeling sorry for this Chris dude who was made out to be the Grinch. Because if I was having to put up with like a brother-in-law like that, yeah, I'd be like Chris.
There was a weird thing that I noticed too, in that the sister didn't need to be part of it at all.
I know, that majority of this film didn't need to be here. Also, I just reread in that opening, he actually says, I think he's talking about what the film is, and he says, Santa Claus is actually on the team. Like, it's meant to be a movie about where Santa is on the team. Whatever that's meant to mean.
Yeah, what does that mean?
In capitals, I literally wrote afterwards, what does that mean?
Yeah. There's a lot of things that are said in this film.
The Santa thing was only explained at the real end of the film when they went on this very strange tangent about Santa Claus. And the entire time, so one thing I picked up as well, is that everything about modern Christmas and traditions we have these days, they were trying to find a direct excuse and correlation for it to be in the Bible.
Yeah.
They couldn't accept the fact that that's just how, like, they just exist because this is how it is in the modern day.
How it's developed,
they were having to find excuses. Like, there was an analogy at one point he was talking about where it was like God had a house with a Christmas tree and lights, but it wasn't even done in the analogy way. It was like he was being dead serious.
Yeah, he was outright saying, God's house has a Christmas tree, and it was decorated with lights.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, it was no form of, like, simile or metaphor. It wasn't being said in a metaphorical sense. It was being said in a literal. And it was just like, I don't get it.
And that was immediately after, apparently, Adam eating from the tree.
Yeah, because I'm sure it was Eve. I
thought it was.
90% sure.
I'm second guessing it.
Yeah, because he said it twice.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention in class, but, I now need this Googled.
Yeah, I'm fact-checking it right now.
Awesome. Resident fact-checker.
They are innocent and unembarrassed about their nakedness, however, a serpent convinces Eve to eat the fruit.
Yeah. So, when confronted, Adam tells God that Eve gave him the fruit to eat, and Eve tells God that the serpent deceived her into eating it.
Yeah.
And then he curses the serpent, the woman, then the man, then expels the man and the woman from the garden. Okay, but Eve was never mentioned from that. The way they put it in the film is if he did it from his own volition.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm glad that this isn't like a Mandela effect type thing.
No.
That it was actually Eve, because...
It's just... there is no way I can describe in words how they were going about things in these flashbacks.
You do need to watch it.
It's very much you have to watch it. You can watch it if you're on America, Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah.
You can rent it.
I believe you can rent it.
Or do a free trial. If you're in Australia or anywhere else in the world, the film never made it out of the country. Good luck.
Yeah. So we couldn't even watch it
the way we wanted to. Yeah.
We had to just watch the YouTube video.
Oh gosh, it's so going back to some of the music stuff as well. There was one point we do actually come back to the beginning of the film where it opens on the Vikings.
Yep.
And in that, we finally find out then, this is meant to be this person here. And, there's like a bit of a weird sort of terrible editing / dialogue, doesn't really matter. And then it suddenly goes into just brutal murder, which you're like, okay, that...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no warning.
But there's like epic dubstep music while it's happening.
Yeah.
And then immediately afterwards, it goes back and there's the girl who was with him in the beginning of the film who says kind of very awkwardly, oh, you got it out of your system now? Like, he's a third grader. And then he smiles. Yeah. There's a really bad, terrible twinkle sound effect over his teeth, and then reindeer come up, and then it's...
And then he says the habitual ho ho ho.
And then he says, let's go bless some kids tonight.
Yeah, and it's so
That was
creepy.
an actual line.
Like, yeah, it genuinely sounded like he was going to go and kill some kids.
Yeah.
Like, based upon what we saw, yeah.
Oh, and then after that scene, we go back to the car, and at one point, they're like, where's ho 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 in the Bible?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And then then they add the ho ho ho. Like, they add him saying ho ho ho. Ho ho ho.
Yeah,
it's like,
everything
bruh.
there was, they had to make an excuse for it, essentially.
Yeah, and it was...
There are no words for it.
Yeah.
It's on the bottom of the scale for a reason.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it was. Also, at the beginning, we jump around a lot. We both have ADHD here.
Yeah,
but
yeah, we do
at
apologize
the beginning, when he was going around, there was like a bunch of kids with hot chocolates. Mr. Main Character dude was like going and putting whipped cream in them. Did you see a single bit of whipped cream go into those drinks?
No, I didn't see any of that. Also, Kirk at the beginning mentions that he has hot chocolate in his mug. There's no way. There is no way he had hot chocolate in that mug.
That brings me to our next point.
Oh, very good.
So we've all seen bad ad-libbing, or, you know, where something's obviously been pre-recorded
Dubbed over,
and dubbed over it. There's a scene straight out of nowhere. It doesn't actually make sense for it being there. We take a break from the flashbacks and from the car scene and cut to two random guests at the party who are suddenly spouting random conspiracies. And you can't tell, you cannot tell in this film if we're meant to be believing them or not. Like, if the film believes that these conspiracies are true or not. But the way they're doing it is, it's really badly shot. But they're both holding mugs up over their mouths and just kind of moving behind them, and it's the audio's quality's changed as well, and they're clearly dubbed over it. Yeah, it's terrible.
And I can understand it to a point because, like, straight away I was like, this guy is talking way too fast. There is no way he was able to get those lines out the way, like, in that speed. So that's why they probably had to dub it over.
Look, you can dub. There's nothing wrong with, like, dubbing. That's fine. But holy shit, that is the example of, hey, if you're going to do it, don't do it like this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, I feel like that's a lot of this film.
Yeah, if you can call it a film.
I'll call it a film, but I use the term very loosely.
It's a bunch of flashbacks with narrations strung together. I, as someone who had to watch this film, I just wish I could watch something happen instead of have it be explained to me.
Yeah.
When it doesn't need to be explained to me.
Yeah. I'm trying to work out, there's this one note that I have here. All it says is, what the fuck are you talking about? And you know what? I think that sentiment came up so many times throughout the film that I can't remember why I wrote that.
What was the note before it?
It was to do with the brother-in-law taking the bait.
It's probably... Oh, are you sure it wasn't just before the dub? Because that was around him taking the bait and drinking the Kool-Aid.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
was
you know
the
what? It may
conspiracy.
have been that. Yeah, it may very well have been that. But it was such a weird thing. Because that whole section of the film just didn't need to exist.
No.
But yeah, again, you're right. It didn't make sense to me as to whether or not the film is like, this is the truth.
Yeah.
Or this is.
And also with that too, I feel like with all the narration stuff, the feel they were going for is sort of that storybook Christmas Hallmark sort of vibe. It did not deliver that way.
Yeah.
It was like
nice,
watching...
easy popcorn film.
It was like watching... it was just terrible. It was coming across like a really bad TED Talk. But I think even a TED Talk would be...
with trust me bro energy.
Yeah, that's it right there. At one point, I have a note that says, this dialogue exists. But back to the way he just manipulates Chris, I don't understand how we're meant to continue to like him as a character after having to watch that play out.
No, I don't. I
never liked him as a character.
From the start, but he's not the hero of his story.
Yeah, 100%.
Chris is.
Oh, I think I finally found the note about the babies.
Oh, good.
So, and I quote, this is what it says: imagine soldiers moving through the streets and murdering babies.
That's right. That was actually a quote from the film.
Yeah.
And it was like, where are you getting this from? Like, I don't understand.
I think this broke me. And this is the first one. The silence is, The silence says it. Also, there was that one really awkward pause where it switched back from the flashback back to the car and they just lingered on the shot. But the thing is...
it was like a good 5 seconds.
The problem is with it is they're so still in it unless you literally rewind several times like we did and looking closely. It looks like it's just properly frozen, like a freeze frame.
It looks like it's freeze frame, yeah.
They're not.
Right.
You can see them blinking.
Yeah.
It's there.
Why?
Why?
Yeah. And that's not the only time we just saw a lingering shot that didn't need to be there.
Oh, there were several times. Let's be real, majority of it didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
Like half the time, it felt like the film was trying to do something where, hey, we'll visit this plot point later, everything will come full circle.
And it never did.
The only one it minorly did was on the Santa stuff, which was only brought up at the real end, and that's when it's kind of revealed, oh, Santa's actually the key to the soul.
Yeah. For some reason, after that conversation is when Christian runs in like an absolute psychopath into his own home and uses his polished marble floor as a slip and slide.
With an airplane sound in the back.
With an airplane sound in the back, which I'm sorry, but I have slid on many a slip and slide. That man must have been in so much pain. I
know. It was so bad.
Yeah.
Genuinely just terrible. I think I'm going to go to sleep tonight, and if I dream of that...
If I dream of that, I don't want to wake up. I don't. I just let me go. Like, unplug me from whatever machine I am.
Oh, your sleep apnea machine.
Yeah, my sleep apnea machine. Yeah. Just unplug me.
And also, like, before that, though, so right before that scene, I genuinely thought the film was making out that Santa was the enemy of the film, like, the villain.
So did I.
Yeah.
It gave that vibe. I can't quote what they said, but there was some distinct wording that was like, oh, Santa's the enemy. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Take, but okay.
And then suddenly Santa's not the enemy.
Yeah, Santa's on your team.
It's like, oh, this is what everything's about. So yeah, it starts off with imagine, like, I think a world or a Christmas where Santa was actually on your team, and then that doesn't come up until way later in the film when we get some, lovely little murder, some techno music, and then it's like,
Saint Nick
actually,
murder.
Santa's the enemy here. And then literally maybe 1 minute later, we're going inside and like, oh, nope. Santa's the good guy. Now we're taking Christmas photos with them.
Oh, wait, I just got the kid.
Yep. Oh, did you?
I just got the kid. She was, what's the word? She was a stand-in for elves.
Oh.
Because she was young, she was very small.
Right.
I think she was a stand-in for the elves, Santa's elves.
Yeah, well, we saw them reusing actors in a really bad way.
Yeah,
so.
horribly. It was really poorly
It
done.
really was.
There was no explanation for it. You just had to guess.
And another thing too, do you remember anything about the swaddle? They spent like a good maybe 10 minutes trying to explain a swaddle analogy, and then when they cut back to the car, it was like this mind-blowing thing for Chris.
And you know what the funny thing is? I actually liked that part.
I can't even remember that part now.
Yeah, so... I'll go into that. So they talked about the swaddle, which was the sheet that... Oh, for fuck's sake, my legs are all tangled up. Yeah, so the swaddle, they were talking about the manger that Jesus was in, and that, they removed, in a really weird way, they removed Joseph, they removed Mary, they removed Jesus, and then what you had... Well, yeah, what you had was the swaddle left over. And they started talking about the swaddle and how it was what represented... Jesus' birth and rebirth, because he would have been wrapped in that when he died.
Oh.
Yeah, so I actually thought that was interesting.
That went right over my head. My brain was rotting by that point.
It was not explained well.
I was becoming unmedicated by that point
that
too.
Is really
yeah.
Yeah, no, it in no way was it explained well. But then so they're talking about, okay, so this is the manger, this is where Jesus was born, this is the swaddle that he had. And then it was done in a really, I'm going to use the word artsy way, where
I'm an artiste.
Where they spoke about the next time that Jesus had a swaddle was when they removed... the next time that the swaddle was left over, rather, was when they removed the stone from his tomb.
See, that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, and it was really interesting.
However,
how
does that relate?
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't relate to the film.
Okay, cool, because I'm not going crazy then.
It was just... it was an interesting story, but it was its own standalone thing within that film that they tried to tie into this overarching narrative that didn't exist. Like, it was just a disjointed thing, and that was the best part of the film for me, because I thought this was really interesting how they've worded this. And I actually did mean to bring that up, but you're right, I did forget. I did forget about it, because the rest of the film tainted everything for me.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, so that was what that meant, was that he had a swaddle twice, when he was born, when he was reborn.
I think I realized what's happened. Yeah. So, like, yes, that part there, but I think immediately afterwards they made it this big deal that specifically was like this massive revelation to do with literally nothing they'd actually been talking about. It was completely left out of pocket, didn't fit. However, I think they've done it because, you know, they probably wrote it in there and then went, oh my God, this is so good. We need to use this as the reasoning.
Oh yeah, 100%. That was, Kirk Cameron went to church and that was the sermon that his priest gave.
Yeah, 100%.
And then he's just gone, I'm going to take that. That's my story now, and that's in my film.
And he had to fit it in. He couldn't cut it out. He just had to have it in there.
He had to have that in there.
Yeah, okay, cool. Because there was like some parts of, you know, if you do change things, it's still going to be a bad film, but at least it'll have maybe more plot, more storyline. You're not going to be sitting in a car just having flashbacks constantly.
Yeah, there's so many better ways they could have done it.
All of it needed to be cut out. It just,
yeah. Oh, it was only an hour long, by the way.
Hour long and 3 hours to watch.
Yeah. Like it took us 3 hours to watch it because of all the technical issues and because of the breaks we decided to have, because we just couldn't do it.
Mental health breaks.
Yeah.
I was eating like a burger and like chicken bites, and I would just pause every now and then to write a note for like a good minute just to let my mind.
Yeah, I was doing the same. Like every now and then, we would just reach for the space bar so that we could pause the bloody thing.
I know.
So that we could write down what we were thinking. Because by the time that we started writing it, we'd get halfway through a note and go, "Oh, we need to do a note about this."
Yeah, because there was so much weird stuff happening at once. You'd get halfway through one, and then we'd be on another very noteworthy point.
Yeah.
Why does this film exist? And has he gotten help since? It's from 2014.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. So, yeah, the movie's 9 years old.
That was that long ago?
Yeah, 9 years.
Oh, God.
I mean, Single Ladies is 15 years
old.
Don't
you bring this up every other week.
Because
You've been bringing it up for the past few months.
I know. And because
you saw it.
I saw it on Facebook, and I'm like, no way. Like, Single Ladies is 15 years old? What do you mean?
Oh, God.
Like, yeah, it's 2008.
2008?
Yep.
Oh, gosh.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm glad that this was the first thing we watched. It is near Christmas time for us. We're only 5 days away from Christmas itself.
Oh, God.
And...
Sorry, you just remind me of something else.
Yeah.
In the beginning, he's like, yeah, Christmas is the time where everyone's really nice to each other and considerate. Right. I work in retail. I can confirm this is not
It's
true.
such a lie.
It's such a lie. Every other time has been lovely. The moment we've gotten the Christmas, I've had some very genuinely lovely people. I've also had some others.
Oh, awful. And okay, so I used to work at a petrol station, and so we would be open on Christmas Day. You know what the worst thing? It annoyed me. And you know what? These people thought that they were being genuinely nice by saying this sort of stuff. They're like, oh, it sucks so much that you have to work today on Christmas Day. And it's like, you're literally here. You're literally the reason that I am here working is because you come in here because you've forgotten batteries for your child's toy. You're here, so I'm here.
He has many stories from the petrol station.
I really do.
One day we'll ask him about the vegan woman.
Oh.
Story for another time.
See, the funny thing, you know what? I feel like saying that story now because I've got nothing against vegan people. I had this really long conversation with this woman. She was very lovely, and it just so happened that she was vegan. Lovely, lovely woman. And then a couple of days later comes back in and buys mayonnaise. And I'm like, hang on, I thought you were vegan. And I know that sounds like I'm calling her out, right? But it was a genuine thing of, hang on, what happened? She's like, oh, no. Mayo's vegan. I'm like, no, it's got eggs in it. And the brand of mayo we sold at that place had eggs on the front label.
Oh, no.
So she looked at it. She's like, no, I swear it doesn't. And she looks at the ingredients and she looked at me like a sad child and said, but I really like mayo. And I broke this poor woman. But I'm sorry, like, that was just so silly. Like,
did she continue to buy mayo afterwards?
She did later. So about a week later, she runs over to it, notices that I'm there, sheepishly, like, goes to put it back, and then she's like, no, screw it. And then she comes over and puts it on the table. Like, you could tell she had a really bad day. And she just looks at me dead in the eye. She goes, I know, shut up and ring it up. Like, okay, all right, very good.
It's mayonnaise, come on.
Mayo, she's fine.
I use mayo instead of butter. I don't like butter unless it's melted on toast or banana bread.
That's fair. I don't agree, but
it's the flavor. I have nothing against people who like butter, because majority of people, but it's just for some weird reason the texture, the coldness, the flavor of it. It like, I hate it.
You know what? I can get the texture of it.
Yeah, it's the texture and the fact it's colder than every other ingredient on there. With mayonnaise, yes, it's cold, but it's not like that oily. That's why I have issues with oily textures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's always been a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
I'm solving my own problems, apparently.
Welcome to the podcast where we solve our own food phobias.
We don't need therapy. We just need podcasts.
That's right. Don't need therapy. I definitely need therapy.
You need therapy.
I definitely need therapy.
I'm good. Don't ask. Hey, I tried therapy. It didn't work.
No, that's fair. That's fair. All right. So back to the film. So I think we've spoken long enough.
What we can about it.
And I genuinely think we just need to leave it there.
Yeah, there's nothing more to say.
It just hurts now.
Or the main thing about it is it's our one. It's where it is.
That's true.
On the scale. We've set the benchmark.
Yes, very true. Now, before we do end this, though, see that chest up there? I want you to open it for me.
Oh, gosh. I hear dice noises.
You do hear dice noises.
Oh my god.
I need you to grab a D100 out of there.
A D100?
Yeah. There's 100 films on this top 100 list.
Do you want me to grab another one?
Yeah, of course, because you gotta find the standard digit.
Yeah, every time someone's like roll a D100, even though I have so much physical dice, I just go to D&D Beyond because I look at it and I go, I'm gonna get a 0 here, and it's gonna confuse the shit out of me.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
I shall roll the dice.
Yeah, roll those dice, and we'll see what the next film is.
86.
86.
Okay. 86. What is 86?
I'll always know what you did last summer. This is an R-rated film.
And what kind of film? A bad one.
I'm trying. Yeah, a bad one.
Question is, can we watch it in Australia?
I will give the synopsis of this next film. A group of teenagers in Colorado find themselves being stalked and killed one by one by a mysterious figure with a hook, exactly 1 year after they covered up a friend's accidental death.
Why was this done by uni students? Actually, I would also like to point out that for the film we just watched, it was actually one of the production companies was a uni, was legitimately a university.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. There's actually been some great uni films, genuinely. Yeah. But that one sounds crazy.
All right.
I'm kind of excited.
I'll need to track that one down for the next time we record.
Oh, God. And when will that be?
Don't know. We can do one right now. We can do it right now.
I want to go home and play Final Fantasy.
That's totally fair. But thank you so much for listening to Insert Your Name Here. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.